Hello and welcome to the Recursion Cafe, where we play games from the discard pile. In today's game of Netrunner we have cableCarnage on the left and Theo on the right. cableCarnage is playing Essa, an Anarch ID that likes to sabotage through taking core damage and will have ways of managing their hand size in order to do that. This ID was pretty well represented across the world, which I found quite surprising, but it seemed to do pretty well, which is good to see. And Theo is piloting NEH, which I believe is cableCarnage's deck, so it is tableCarnage if you want to look it up on Netrunner DB. It has, I think, 3 ice in it, and is just assets and tag punishment and a little bit of kill. So Theo will start things off with a triple install and with a draw from NEH's ability. And cableCarnage will start with a sure gamble. Pretty strong starts from both sides. And so cableCarnage will Dirty Laundry a face down card, and he hits a Behold right off the bat. So Theo will pay 4 credits to give cableCarnage 2 tags, and I imagine Dan, cableCarnage, will not trash that because it puts him into range of Oppo. There's no need to. So there's a very nice Behold art there. So cableCarnage will get the money from the Dirty Laundry, he rolls a dice to determine his next move, and he'll run the first card that Theo installed. And it's a Wage Workers, and that I believe is probably worth trashing because it's just going to let Theo install way more assets throughout the rest of the game, so that's a pretty good find there for cableCarnage. So there are the 2 tags, and he's down to 8 credits in all. We are back to Theo, who could carry on installing things, but I think we'll just draw a card and install a card and take 2 credits. And there is the Behold res just so everyone can see it. It doesn't really matter if it's unres or res at this point. And it's open information, it just makes it easier for everyone to see. So paying for that early Behold has really put the Corp back a little bit, only on 3 credits and not able to kind of res most of the assets that give them economy, and that gives cableCarnage a bit of time. I think he mostly just draws and removes the tags, so he's back down to 4 credits but is untagged, just in case Theo does top deck some sort of tag punishment. So here is a Your Digital Life, going up to 7 cards, and a discard there. So cableCarnage will install Dr. Nuka and draw up to, I believe, 7 cards, and there's a Marrow installed, so there's 1 core damage, and there's the first Sabotage of the game. So a Light the Fire is a bin for the core damage, and then cableCarnage will get to draw a card and Sabotage 2, and I believe Theo will take that off the top of the deck. So there we are. Marrow now putting Essa at a 7 hand size, only 1 core damage taken, as marked by that gigantic die on cableCarnage's ID. Marrow might be crucial to cableCarnage surviving against what the Corp can do, because the Corp really wants to try and flatline the runner, and having 7 cards in hand makes that pretty difficult. Theo will play an attitude adjustment to draw 2 cards and reveal up to 2 agendas from HQ and archives. I believe that's 2 5/3s from the discard pile, which is shuffled back into the deck, and Theo will get paid for the trouble. So he's up to 9 credits now, reasonably healthy, and probably happier to carry on installing more and more assets. There's an install and a draw, 1 click left. The trouble with running against this kind of deck is that it's a mix of agendas, assets, upgrades, and traps, and it's just kind of anyone's luck what you run into. So cableCarnage will start by drawing 3 cards with Dr. Nuka, which is surprising because he's on 1 credit, but there's the strike fund, so that brings him up to 4. Still not a great amount of money to be able to contest any sort of big assets that are on the field, but there's another credit and a sure gamble, so he's back in the money, and probably feeling a little bit better and able to contest next turn. Yeah, we'll do his start of turn checks, which is a really good habit to get into, especially if you're playing these wide sort of decks. And there's the mandatory draw. So there are 5 face down cards on the field. The Behold is just kind of hiding behind 2 of them at this point. But again, it doesn't really matter that it's there because it's not going to get hit again. And there's a Wage Workers. So it looks like there's going to be even more installs. There we are. And 1 piece of ice to protect the Wage Workers. I believe 3 pieces of ice are VSA, Ping, and Starlit Night, but I might be mistaken on one of them. But yeah, it could be any one of those, and it's not really... cableCarnage doesn't really have a board state to try and contest that right now without taking too many tags. So he'll check a Gaslight, which will allow Theo to find any sort of operation from his deck at the start of the turn. There's another run, and it's a Spin Doctor, which Theo will res. Will he pop it, or will he tempt the runner into trashing it? which will turn on Oppo. At the moment, no one has stolen any agendas, so the Oppo would only be half powered, but it's still annoying and pretty good value for the Corp, so no need to put yourself into that position if you don't need to. There's another Behold, and of course Theo will fire that, so he goes down to 3 credits, but cableCarnage will take 2 tags as a consequence. And again, no need to trash that. I believe this is the point where Dan rolls like 5 6s in a row and decides to get a new die.
Jesus, okay, you're going to jail.
There we go. So he finally rolled a result that he's happy with, and he will check the first card, which is next to the ID, and it's a Reaper function, and that is definitely one to trash. 2 trash cost, bringing cableCarnage down to 7. It does reduce the threat of a kill with 2 Reaper functions and a potential end of the line. So there it is, and it's really about making good decisions about what to trash and what to leave. So there's the draw. Again, checking any fit-on cards. There is a Regulus mining license, which Theo will click 3 times, gain a click with wage workers, and then Oppo because something was trashed last turn. Really strong turn there, and the cableCarnage is just pointing out a card to res because, again, everyone's seen it and it doesn't have a res cost, so it's fine to just have that be on the field. Crucially, the Oppo wasn't a fully powered Oppo, so cableCarnage is supposed to have 4 tags, I believe, at this point, and yeah, there we are. And it's just going to run and contest the Gaslight because that is one way to find the kind of crucial pieces in this combo. There's 4 tags, and it's a Spin Doctor. So again, good to get these out of the off the field because it just keeps recurring all of the threats that that deck could possibly have. And cableCarnage will just keep running and running and running. So there's a second wage workers, and there's no point trashing it if the first one is still on the field. And cableCarnage will go and trash. Well, remind Theo that he trashed the Gaslight. The broad advice that Soccer gave for beating tableCarnage or a deck like tableCarnage is just to kind of try to run everything because you have to find those threats, you have to neutralize them. You might get tagged along the way, but you just have to try and fight through that. And so far, we've not, apart from that initial core damage, we've not seen S's ability triggered once because I think the play is just to have a 7-card hand size as your ability with your console and just play from there. So yeah, Theo's in a tiny bit of a spot where he has to try and pump out more assets, I think, so that Essa isn't able to check them all. Essa's on 3 credits, so it will be difficult, and with the wage workers out, that is 4 installs, potentially, every turn. So there's, I think, a triple install and a hedge fund, going up to 12 credits, and maintaining that Oppo threat. Cable will continue to run, and scores a false lead, so Theo just put that out there without any defense. That being said, there's not much defense in that deck. We'll check another remote, and it's a Rashida. We'll spend 1 credit to trash it, and the last one's a Checker Scion. So there's 1 more tag, and again, cableCarnage is up to 5, but you know, cards like High Profile Target aren't around anymore. I believe that deck has Shipment from Vladisibirsk, which is a potential Punisher, but it wouldn't round out the game at this point, so it's kind of alright at the moment, I think. cableCarnage would just take a credit and leave it at that. And so we have a whole pile of traps face up on the field for Theo, and Irregulars with 6 credits left on it, and still a Wage Workers behind a piece of ice, and that Wage Workers is probably going to do lots of work throughout the game. So there's an install, a draw, another install, an install, and then a draw to finish with. And that's, you know, less than ideal sequencing, but you have to do that kind of work to get around Wage Workers. There's another check, and it's Amalia, who could blank a resource if Essa was going to install any, but 5 tags, I think that's you're expected not to do that unless you're going to use it immediately. And continuing to check with only 3 credits. I suppose you can still trash Rashidas and Spin Doctors with that money, but it's, if you run into anything bigger than that, then it becomes a problem. There's the ping, and Dan goes to 6 tags. Again, at this point, it's just an end the run, which is effective at the moment. Being so heavily tagged, you don't necessarily want to install any programs that could get retributioned or self-growth programmed or anything like that. I'm not sure tableCarnage runs it, but just generally anyway, no need to risk it. So here's Rashida, it was behind the ping, and there's 3 cards and 3 credits, so that's just all the more gas for NEH to continue flooding the board with more assets. The Corp is still on no points though, and a kill doesn't seem to be in the wings just yet. You'd have to fire, I think, 2 Reaper functions and then an end of the line, or Reaper function end of the line, then recur at the end of the line and do it again. But that's also assuming there's no Steel Scene Scarring in hand, which, given that cableCarnage is playing an Anarch, it's pretty likely. So there's an install double advance, so that's no Wage Workers trigger there, and no NEH trigger because it was within an existing server. So that looks to be something like a Bologna, which would make sense because cableCarnage didn't have money to start off this turn with. It could also be a Degree Mill because he has 1 card installed, but I think cableCarnage is just going to go and money up, just take a turn out. There's the triple advance, and it wouldn't even be game point if Theo does score 1. So there is the Degree Mill. Yeah, cableCarnage wouldn't have been able to steal it even if he had wanted to at that particular point. So that's 3 points to the Corp, and there's an install with the Wage Workers click, which is very efficient. I think without a board state on the runner's side, the Corp pivoting to scoring out, it just seems like a good idea. cableCarnage is going to go for the throat and use a legwork. So there's an open HQ and there's 5 cards there. You'd assume agendas will have started to appear by this point in the game, I think, so it's a good call. There's a Tomorrow's Headline, speaking of. So cableCarnage goes up to, I think, 7 tags, but also 3 points to match the Corp. And again, at this point, tags don't greatly matter, at least the number of them. So we'll access another card, and it's a false lead, so that's 4 points. 1 above the Corp. And will it be another one? No, it's a Mindscaping. So 2 hits out of 3 from HQ, that's pretty solid. Still no Fracture appearing on the board for cableCarnage, so contesting the whatever it is behind the ping seems difficult. I don't believe that deck runs any sort of like boomerangs or anything. I think it might just be Begamots and Lambs. So cableCarnage just says screw it and goes for the finality. So we'll pay 2 and take a core damage, which will involve some level of Sabotage as well. So we'll see what gets hit with the core damage, and it's Steel Scene Scarring, which is ideal. So cableCarnage will draw 2 more cards, and then run and see 4 cards off R&D. And of course, with the deck being so low on ice, the centrals were completely undefended. That's not an agenda. Oh, sorry, those were Sabotage. So 2 off the top, and we'll see what happens. That's not an agenda. It's not an agenda. Not an agenda. And there's below. Cool. And credit perfect. cableCarnage had just enough credits to steal that and close out the game to be 7 points and 0 credits there. Really well played from both sides. And of course, if anyone knew how to beat tableCarnage, it would be cableCarnage, which makes sense. But I think watching this, it was quite cool to identify the lines and kind of see how Dan shifted his game plan to accommodate for what the Corp is going to do. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.